Hello and welcome to Paper Plays Julie K.
Welcome everyone, and thanks so much for stopping by today. I'm so excited to share my latest guest design team project for TaylorMade Journals on Etsy. And TaylorMade Journals is owned by Lorna, and she sells beautiful digital kits. She has journal kits, and she also has ephemera kits, a lot of vintage style ones, which I love. It's right up my alley. And I did previously have one other design team project that I created for her. I created these really cute paper dolls. And so if you guys did miss that video, I do have the video listed below in the description box. I also have links for Taylor's store, for TaylorMade Journals, for Lorna's store, listed in the description box. So make sure you do open up the description box to find the link to Lorna's Etsy store. And for this journal, I did work with one of Lorna's kits. It's called Vie En Rose. It's shabby, it's pink, it has roses, and it's vintage, which again is right up my alley, right up my style. So I was really excited to work with this kit. And I created an envelope flip journal. I use a lot of envelopes that flip in this. And then I also have, it also kind of contains another little mini journal inside of it in between one of the envelopes that I folded in half. So I'm excited to share it with you guys. So I did tie it shut. It is really chunky. And I did tie it shut with this vintage crochet piece that I had found. I can't remember if I picked this up at an antique store or at the thrift store, but it just worked perfect for this journal. And I did attach a cute little heart charm and then a little charm that says I love you, and it's inside of a little envelope that I thought was fitting for this journal. And again, it's made mostly with envelopes other than the actual journal part or the journal cards or tags. And so I did start off with this journal. It is, the cover right here is made with like a 9x12 envelope that I did cut down slightly. And then I added Lorna's papers and cardstock to it. You can see the little bit of pink cardstock just to give it a little bit more stability. And then every envelope does have some sort of pocket in it or opening in it so that it does contain a journal card or a tag or some sort of writing piece of paper in it, just so that there was more real estate if you're going to use it as a journal. And so I'll get to the envelope flip part first, which I just love making these types of journals. They're so much fun because they just have all these fun little envelopes that flip. And it flips this way and it keeps on going. So there's all sorts of envelopes in this journal. And so on the cover I chose to use this envelope. It's a little bit smaller one, and I added this beautiful little image that does come from Lorna's kit. I do love her kit. It has everything you could possibly need to make one journal in it. She has journal pages, she has ephemera, she has fussy cuts, she has tags, she has pockets. Just anything you could think of that you would want, she has it, and it's all in one kit, so you don't have to buy on an add-on kit or anything. And so I did add a little tag behind this image. I made her into a pocket. You can see I had some little fussy cuts, which are part of her journal kit. Other than the cardstock, any digitals that you see in here are all from Lorna's kit. I also used a couple of pieces from her kit, Vintage Paper Ephemera. That's what kit that I had purchased from her store a while back that I love using just because it has all sorts of fun vintage ephemera. So I did use some of those pieces just because I had already had them printed, and it worked nicely with this kit. So once you open this up, I did have this envelope here then, and I added, these are lined papers from one of her journal pages. What I ended up doing to decorate this is I printed off a whole bunch of her journal pages, and then I cut them up and added them on to the fronts and the backs of the envelope. So I just kind of kept on playing with the pieces of paper as I was cutting them. And so the line papers right here are part of one of her pages. And I did try to add lots of little laces and trims, eyelash trim, which I love using. This is some vintage rickrack trim that I found the other day at the thrift store. And on this one I added a little ledger piece, and this one might have come from that Vintage Paper Ephemera kit, I'm not quite sure. But the layering pieces right here were part of her kit, and so I did layer them up and add a little piece of trim. And then I used one of the little postcards that was in the kit and decorated it up just slightly. And I'm going to stick that under there just as an extra spot to journal on. I did ink all the edges on all my ephemera pieces, and I also sewed around all of them. I just love all those little details when you make journals, just adding all those extra little things that kind of make things pop. So here again is another little envelope, and this time I closed up the normal opening and I cut off the top just so I could stick a tag in there. She has so many fun little tags in her kit. And ephemera pieces, which I added this here thinking you could kind of journal on that. This little piece right here was another ephemera piece that I added, and I added some trim at the bottom and added some of her little cut apart pieces. Little journal card. And then she had a whole page of these where they're kind of like ATC size, which make fun little journal cards that you can stick into pockets and little coin envelopes. Again, added some more trim and some eyelash trim. And so when this one flips over, I chose to put the little notch on this side for the tag. And I did try on this one to either have an obvious opening like this, that it was an envelope, or I would include a notch so that you would know that you could pull it out and that there would be something in there. So this one I used one of her journal cards that was included in the kit. She also had some cute little tabs in her kit, so I did go ahead and add tabs to some of the items. I did back everything with, or most things with, the tea-dyed paper. And that was from my stash. She did include pockets, and what I loved about the pockets in her kit is she does have tabs on them, so then you have that little extra space to easily slide your ephemera pieces in. Another cute little jar from her kit, and I decorated it with some trim and some flowers and some eyelash trim. She did include, I think, a couple of coin envelopes and a couple of regular envelopes in the kit. And so I did use one of them. I do have one left that I didn't use because she had so much stuff. I still had pieces left. I mean, that's how much stuff you get in with her kit. So, but at some point I just had to stop because I had so much stuff in there. She also had words in her kit, so I did choose to put this one right here on the front, Vie En Rose, because that's the name of the kit. And I kind of like the fact that when all my envelopes were closed, you could see the name of it. And so we've looked at those, so now I'm going to flip it this way. And again, this is a journal page that I cut up to fit on this envelope. I decorated it with one of the words that said dream, added some trim from my stash, and I added a journal card. And again, I used pieces from her kit to make the journal cards. I love this piece of paper. It's, you know, it's decorated, but it's still light enough that you can journal on it. And I backed it with tea-dyed paper and again sewed around it, added trims at the top. I'm just going to leave the tags out just to make the video go faster. And so we'll look at this page next. Right here, another envelope. And this one was a window envelope. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. And what I chose to do on this one is I glued this image inside the envelope, so it's always going to be there. And then I decorated it up. You can see I used some of her ephemera pieces to decorate up. And I just used some of the random pieces after I cut up pieces for the bigger envelopes. I had little pieces left, so I just layered those around or collaged them around the window envelope part. And she had this cute little ephemera piece with the little cupid on it. And so I added that, the little journal piece here that you could write a date or, you know, an important event. Layered up some stuff from her kit. And then when you open it up this way, this part of the envelope, this is another envelope. So this is that big one that we saw, and then this is the next envelope. This one, I made a little pocket here, and you can also see down here the little window envelope part of this envelope. This one I just put one of those little ATC cards in it. And then this one, when you pull this one out, you'll just see the white behind it. But because I put this on the inside of that one, and I added the word journal, one of her little journal cards that she had in here, I actually just glued down. And then here's a little strip left over. In the back side, I used tea-dyed paper, and so that fits in there. And when it's inside there, you can see the rose. I'm not going to stick it back in right now, but I love this one. I think this is one of my favorite envelope envelopes that I decorated for this journal. And then when you open it up again, I have an envelope here. It's just a tiny little envelope, and all I did to this one is decorate it with some trim at the bottom. I left it plain because I was thinking that's still plain enough right here that you could journal on it. And by this time also my journal was getting kind of bulky, so I was trying to leave a few spots flat. And then when you open it up, she did have these little circle cutouts in her kit, so I did add that there. And I added another one of those little ATC type journal cards inside of that envelope. Then the next spot right here, there is a journal card, postcard that I added. And I just added a little trim embellishment to it besides the sewing and the ink in the edges. And then this was one of the cutout pieces that she had from her cutouts, and all I did was add some trim there, and I just kind of used it as a tuck. And then there's another envelope right here, and on this one I chose to add the belly band right here that she had. She included some belly bands. She had some that went this way, and then she also had a couple long ones too that I used in the actual journal part. And so I did layer up there with some trim and the circle image for fussy cut. Added some trim right there, and inside the belly band I went ahead and added one of her tags and another one of her little ephemera pieces or journal cards. And on this one there's also a tag that pulls out the top. And again, I just used layered up pieces that were left over from decorating the envelopes, and I tried to decorate the journal card. So I did start off with cardstock on one side, there's tea-dyed paper on the other, and I layered this beautiful rose which came from her fussy cuts in the kit, and this other little label image, and added just a little tab at the top with some lace. Then in this middle section right here you can see this CD envelope, and on this one I did use a circle die cut to cut out the middle piece so that I could just lay on the square piece of one of her papers. And I have to tell you that I love this background page that she included in her kit, and it looks like this. And I printed off, I must have printed off like 5 or 10 of these sheets because I plan on using these in other projects down the road. It's just a beautiful shabby chic background, and since I love doing shabby chic, this is just such a pretty piece of paper that I just love this background piece. So I printed off extra of that one, but I did use it here, back here for this envelope, and I added some trim at the bottom and the side, and again one of her words with some eyelash trim behind it, and then one of her fussy cut birds. And then if you look through the window, I did glue this image on the inside of the envelope, so you're always going to see this. And when you open it up this way, I included a little notch right up here so you could pull out the journal card, and I made a little journal card again with part of one of her scrapbooking pages that I cut down, and I layered up some trim there. And this just fits back in there, whichever way you want to put it. Down here, another one of her pockets. I added fussy cut roses there. I added some trim to the bottom of it. Inside the pocket, I added a tag, and I did add a little stickles to it so it does shine in person. I don't know if the camera will pick it up. She had some cute little library cards in her kit. And the other fun thing that she had in her kit was some little mini file folders, and so I did cut them out. I inked the edges, and then I sewed down the middle of them and added scrap tea-dyed paper, and so it kind of gives it like a kind of a little mini journal inside of this journal. And I did edge it with some more trim and decorate it with some trim. Here's a little ledger piece, and I think this one came from the vintage paper ephemera kit that she has, but I'm not sure on that one. I think that one I had already had in my stash. But she had a ton of fun stuff to work with in this kit, so I had a lot of fun just decorating and going to town on each of these pages. So those are all the envelope parts. And then the other thing I just wanted to point out before I open up the actual journal and go through that is I did hide when I glued my envelopes together, it looked a little messy. So I did hide it just by adding some trim right there. And then I also added some of that trim right there. It just covered it up and made it look really cute, and it made it look a little more shabby. So I love how that looked. And again, when you open it up, in this large envelope that I use for the covers, I did add 2 more journal cards in the front and the back. And so I'll just hold those up real quick. Again, I just used journal pages and put them onto pink cardstock and added a little trim at the top. And the back again is tea-dyed paper. And on these ones, I did choose to go ahead and I glued down some of her fussy cut floral images, which is kind of fun. And there's still a lot of space yet to journal on these. Then here's the actual journal part. And for this, I decided to just decorate some of the pages because by this time I had completed this part first. And I knew I wanted this in the middle just because I like to have lots of spots to journal in my journals. I didn't decorate everything, but the one thing I do love about Lorna's kits is that they're so beautiful they can stand on their own. So if you don't like to heavily decorate your journals, you could just print them up and sew them up and they would look lovely, not really having to do much to them. And so what I did on the pages that I used her kit on is I just went ahead and just sewed some lace down the edges because I love that look. But I did leave them plain, other than I did ink some of the edges. And I did print on the front and the back side. So they're kind of different on both sides. And again, her kit had some nice lined pages in it, which I love. I added some tea-dyed paper, and I didn't do anything to the tea-dyed paper pages other than ink the edges just so there'd be more writing space. I also added some sheets of pink cardstock for my stash, and on these I did decorate the front and back sides of them. And on a lot of them I did use, she had these long belly bands in there, and I thought they were really fun to just go ahead and add some trim to the sides of them. And then I sewed them onto the page on the top and the bottom. And then I stuck some of her ephemera pieces and also pieces from the vintage paper ephemera kit inside each of them. And a lot of them I did choose to add, besides sewing around the edges, I just chose to add a little bit of trim on them. This one I did add one of her tabs to it and some more stickles on that one. On the back side, she had some journal cards, and this one I chose to make into a pocket. And I added some trim at the bottom. I added some vintage rickrack trim and some of her ephemera pieces. I love this piece with a little ballerina on it. And this one I just chose to kind of layer a couple of little snippets from my stash on it. And I added some tea-dyed paper on the back, a little postcard from her kit for that pocket. Another one of her pretty papers. You know, more of my tea-dyed paper. And this piece right here, again, was one of her fussy cuts. And I tried to put my lace down at the bottom so that there's still this little spot right here, again, where you could put a date or a name of an event or maybe a name of a person right there in your journal. And I added a tag and a postcard and another little ephemera, vintage ephemera piece to that. Now on the back side I added another piece from her kit. And I love this one. And again, it has a little spot in the middle that you could journal really tiny or add a date, or even you could, if you have a really small photo, you could even cut a photo out for that one too. And on this one I added the other library card, which is, I love this image. I used that one I think on the back side too. She had it bigger on one of her journal pages. In this one I just kind of kept it simple. I just added some trim to the top. Another one of her beautiful pages. Belly band, and again I just added, this one I went ahead and added the other mini file folder that I made into a little journal, so there's lots of spots in here also to journal on. And this one I did ink the pages on that one and added a little trim at the top. And on the back side I did add a pocket Again, she had some pockets in her kit. And so this one I did add a piece of the ephemera that I had sewed around and added eyelash trim, and there's also a piece of rickrack trim right there. Another tag and a journal card. In the middle, she had 2 large envelopes in her kit, and so this one I did choose to use in the middle of my journal, which I love, and just added a journal card and another ledger piece to that. Another pocket in her kit. Some more ephemera. This one I made into a little notebook also, with just some of the leftover tea-dyed paper from here. Just trying to use up all my scraps. In the back side, another one of those belly bands that I added trim to, and added some more ephemera that has, you know, just a little bit of trim on it. And the tea-dyed paper on the back side. It was such a beautiful kit to work with. I had so much fun with this kit. I'm so glad I chose this one to work with. Another tag that was part of the kit. Some more ephemera pieces. Another pocket. And then this was another ephemera piece that I turned into a little tuck spot, and I just added trim at the bottom, and I did sew around that one before I glued it down. Another one of her little journal cards, and another little postcard. Little tag, some more ephemera pieces. Another beautiful journal pocket that she had in the journal kit right there. And then the last belly band. And this one I just chose. And this one also came from the vintage paper ephemera kit, this piece. I love that belly band though with the Eiffel Tower on it. That one's a fun one. Then this page, again, I chose this one kind of to end the last journal page. And that one, I just tied this one shut just to kind of hold it together a little bit nicer, to keep it a little flatter when the whole thing's tied together. And then that's the back side again. So again, I just wanted to thank everybody so much for watching today. And thanks again to Lorna for the beautiful journal kit to work with. I had so much fun working with this kit. Again, if you are interested in purchasing this kit, I will have a link to Lorna Shop, which is, again, tailor-made journals on Etsy. I will have that in the description box below. So until next time, I hope you guys all have a wonderful day and happy crafting.